शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुं सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। न अन्तः प्रज्ञं न बहिष्प्रज्ञं न उभयतः प्रज्ञं न प्रज्ञानघनं न प्रज्ञं नाप्रज्ञम् अदृष्टम् अव्यवहार्यम् अग्राह्यम् अलक्षणम् अचिन्त्यम् अव्यपदेश्यम् एकात्मप्रत्ययसारम् प्रपञ्च उपशमम् शान्तम् शिवम् अद्वैतम् चतुर्थम् मन्यन्ते स आत्मा स विज्ञेयः। So the Upanishad, the study of any Upanishad, and here Mandukya Upanishad, is a blessing. And a blessing means that it removes any kind of dukkha in your life. That is the purpose, the blessing of the Upanishad. So in this very important seventh mantra of this Upanishad, this blessing is done in two parts. So the first part, of course, as you say, is na tanta pragyam na bahash pragyam. It's what it is that you should see that it is not really, it may seem like part of you, but it is not you. It kind of comes and goes. Something like, if you put some paint on your skin, then yes, your skin will look like it is painted, but it is not really you. It just goes away. You can remove it easily. So similarly here, all of our thoughts that seem to limit us in our life, and we will go into that in more specific details. Probably the most important set of thoughts are me and mine. And both of them encircle you. They are external to you, and they need to be, you can remove them. So this is what is called sambandha. In Sanskrit words, all of the prefixes and the dhatus are very specifically created. So for example, bandha. Bandha means to be tied down. So supposing you have committed a crime and some and the police takes you away by tying your hands. That's called bandha. But sambandha very specifically is meant by saying samyak bandha. Samyak bandha means that it is not an ordinary bandha. It is something which you impose on yourself purely out of thoughts. That's it. And so there, the thoughts that this is mine. So you immediately limit yourself. This is me. This is me is a very important viveka that we have to do. You are doing me to a false set of reflections. You're looking at a reflection and you're saying, this is me. And so in the seventh mantra, it talks about how to do viveka between what you see and what you are. And the second part of the seventh mantra, which we will now start to do, not now, but I'm still not quite up to that. I still have to build up some more background before we can really understand that. Adrishtam, avyavaharyam, etc. is exactly who you are, not what you are not. So, this blessing of the Upanishad starts with doing a viveka between the seer and the seen. Okay? That's what the seventh mantra does. But it should be understood that this viveka between drik and drishya is necessary but not sufficient. That is what we have to really see. Necessary but not sufficient. One can look upon this as maybe a one step in a two-step process. So the first step is to do the viveka very clearly between, because before doing the viveka, it all seems all mixed up. But the first step is to see that the mixing up consists of two parts. One which is continuously changing, and it is actually a aropa, adhyaropa on top of you, and the other one is which doesn't change. So this viveka is necessary. But this viveka as the first step is not sufficient. Why is it not sufficient? This is an important thing. Why is it not sufficient? It is so, and we can just say it now and then try to understand it. It is not sufficient because it still leaves a sense of limitation on you. It is called parichinnatvam or parichinnata, either one. Parichinnata would be feminine and parichinnatvam would be neuter, gender. But the main thing is parichinna. Parichinna means a sense of limitation. So this is a very important thing that the advanced students of Vedanta must focus on this. That no matter what we do, viveka, vairagya, etc., none of that will become truly fruitful until you attack parichinnatvam, the sense of limitation. Because we tend to view everything from the standpoint of parichinnatvam. So Swami Akhandananda has very beautifully pointed out that if you look at all of the problems in our life, problems in our life means that I am, I have limited life, and even within the limited life, I have, I have lots of problems, health problems, money problems, relationship problems, even while I am limited. This is the thing. There was, I think I've shared that with you. There's a Western, somewhere in the West, I saw that in America, where somebody says, life is a bitch, and then it ends. It really summarizes the problems of life. That, if the life was limited, but in between I am very happy, then they will be okay. They'll be okay. But even when I'm alive, I have lots of problems. So all the problems are considered to be the children of a mother and father. See, this is the Karya Karana Viveka. Vichara, sorry, not Viveka, but Vichara. Karya Karana, what is an effect, what is the cause? So the effects are my experiences of life. These are kind of like the children. What is the cause of them? What creates them? Who is the mother and father for me? So here, Swamiji very beautifully points out, Parichinnatvam is the mother. An idea that I am limited is the mother of all problems. And the father is not knowing that I am not limited. Ajnanam. So you can say this, that the father is Ajnanam and the mother is what is called Bhranti. Bhranti meaning I am limited. And then of course, born from these two parents are what kind of limitation do I have? I'm limited from a standpoint of body. I'm only here, not there. Limitation. I am limited in terms of time. I was not there before, and I'm definitely not going to be there afterwards. Right now I happen to be there. Limitation. I am not someone else. I'm only this much. Limitation. Vastutaha. Kalataha. Kalataha. Deshataha. Vastutaha. Parichinnatvam. And no matter what I do, whatever I accomplish, don't accomplish, fail to do, successfully doing it, the parichinnata doesn't go. That needs to be attacked. So, it is said that if you read the words of the Mahatmas, what it says is that the parichinnatvam will never go until you inquire into whether you are really parichinna, where you are really limited. And until you do, a sense of fear and concern will always be there. So even in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Yajnavalkya, who is teaching Janaka, King Janaka, the father of Sita Mata. And Janaka is, of course, given as a very beautiful example in our Shastra about a Grihastha, like you and I, who was married, had children, had a business, had some rajya, some property to take care of. He was the king. How he became Jivan Mukta? By studying Vedanta from Yajnavalkya. And at the very end, Yajnavalkya says to Janaka, Abhayam praptosi. Abhayam praptosi. This means a recognition by the Guru. Same thing is given in the Ashtavakra Gita. Same thing is given in Taittiriya Upanishad, all over. And so what needs to happen is I attain Abhayam. Abhayam is the sign of a Jivan Mukti. So what is Abhayam? Abhayam means fearlessness. Fearlessness. So people can say, I don't have any fears. I don't think that any tiger is going to come and attack me. Fearless means unconcerned about anything. Swami Akhandananda points out, he says, it comes a point in Jivan for a person to understand the whole thing. There is nothing to be done. You don't wake up in the morning and say, I've got to do this. I have to do that. This is unfinished. I wish I could do this. I'm hungry. I have to get some, oh my God, I don't have any bananas. Nothing to be done. When you look at people and your children and your family and your friends and so on, and you just enjoy their presence. There is no sense, this is mine. I have to take care of it. I'm very concerned about that. What is going to happen? You look at your own body and you don't feel, I am limited. I am going to be gone. You say this body is something which is I'm associated with because of my prarabdha karma, and it's going to go. And I am still an observer. So Swami Akhandananda says there is no bhaya, no concern, nothing, no ichcha. You are satisfied all the time. This is what we need to achieve. This is what is called Sarvatma Bhava that we were studying. So, the singularity of Vedanta, again, just to go back to just to make sure that we see this. The uniqueness and the singularity of Vedanta is not that you are a Sakshi. So it is necessary but not sufficient. And you find that there are a number of other schools of thought also say the same thing. You are the Sakshi. In the Sankhya philosophy, for example, it says that there is Prakriti. that creates all of this, but the Atma is different from the Prakriti. So there also it says it is the Sakshi. Buddhism says the same thing, that you are just, all these are just thoughts. You are thoughtless. So everybody says you are the Sakshi. So what is the uniqueness of Vedanta? Vedanta is something truly, there is nothing like that. You cannot say, this also is the same thing. We're all talking about the same God. It's not like that. It has a very singular message. And that message is that you are not only the Sakshi, you are the whole thing. This is what is called Advaita. And if you see something as being separate from you, what you need to understand is that you alone can be the Satyam. Everything is Asatyam, which may look like Satyam, but it is you. It may look like Satyam, but it is Asatyam. As we saw in the example of the rubber scorpion. The rubber scorpion, well made. If you ever go to, when my children were young, we could go, and now we are beginning to do that again with the grandchildren. If you go to the toy shop, my God, there are some realistic looking animals with shiny rubber. Exactly looks like a scorpion, but it is not. Similarly, the whole world looks like a real scorpion to me. But this is what Viveka is. This is what the whole teaching of the Vedanta is, that if you see that, you find. So there also, in the case of the scorpion, it was something other than you. But here, any sense of the experience of the world is nothing but you alone. So we will visit this in more specifics as we go on. But I'm just telling you, this is the basis of Vedanta. And again, going back to this one thing, this is the point that I'm making today, is you will be much better off to attack the very cause of your problems rather than to attack the problems themselves. So you can continue doing what you have to do. If you're hungry, eat. If you're thirsty, then drink. There's no problem with that. That's how life is made. But in order to become free, you have to attack the mother and father of all life's of experiences, which is attack the parichinnatvam. And until you do that, no matter what progress you make, it is not going to make any difference. This is the message of Vedanta. Interestingly enough, I remember this so well. I'll give you an example from my own study and my own teaching. Okay, so just let me construct the example, and then I will point out where not attacking the parichinnatvam was causing me to not understand what is going on. Okay, I'll give you an example of that. So over the course of the studies, I became convinced about what Vedanta was pointing out, which is called the Vivarta Karanam. Vivarta Karanam. Vivarta based on Karya Karana. So what that means is that there is a change without a change is called Vivarta. And the classic example of that is that of, let's say, gold ornaments and gold. And so the gold, can take the form of ornaments, but without losing its own identity of gold. No matter what form it takes, it doesn't matter. This is called Vivarta, as opposed to Parinama. So Parinama, just to, you know all this, I'm just summarizing it. Parinama means that you give up the original state and you take up a new state, like milk becoming yogurt was the classical example. It's called Parinama. But in the case of a clay becoming a pot or a gold becoming an ornament, it's called Vivarta Karanam. Vivarta change means a change without a change. It's called Vivarta. So this one I think we learned from our acharyas over the time. And an offshoot of this principle of Vivarta is the following. You cannot postulate the existence of an effect without the presence of the karana. This is fundamental to Vivarta. We're saying the same thing, but this is a corollary of that. The corollary is that if you look at something which is formful, like a ring, then there cannot be a ring without the substance from which it is made. You cannot have an existence of a ring without having a metal, like in this case, let's say gold. You cannot have that. Okay? All right? Therefore, it postulates you have a lot of experiences in your life. All the experiences of life, good, bad, pleasant, unpleasant, temporary, permanent, long-term, short-term, no matter what it is, any kind of an experience. These are sophisticated effects. So they must have a cause. And this is a vivarta. This is a vivarta phenomena. It is not a parinama phenomena. It is not an aramba. Not arambavada, not parinamavada. It is a vivartavada. And because of that, there cannot be any experience without you. You are the vastu. You are the I. You are the Sat-Chit Ananda. And you cannot have any experiences without you. So this one was clear to me. This became clear to me. It wasn't originally. I had to study it and think about it and absorb it. And then finally I did. Okay? So I'm just going step by step. Now came the real problem. What is it? I understood this. I should have understood it. After studying for so many years, books, Upanishads, lectures, all by all the Mahatmas and so on, finally it became very clear that I am, without me, nothing can be. Or should not be. Should not be. That became clear. Now there's a problem. My mind argued. So this is what is called a doubt. Samshaya. I think I mentioned it to you. Again, the word samshaya, just like, we're talking about sambandha. So samshaya, I think I mentioned that in one of the previous classes. Swami Vivekananda says is based out of two words, samyak and shaya. So shaya means asleep, sleeping. Shayana means asleep. Samshaya means as though you are asleep. When you have an ignorance of something, then you are asleep to the fact of that fact. So this is what is called samshaya, which is called doubt in English. So the doubt is you're supposed to see something as it is, but you don't. And why don't you do it? You are asleep to it because you have a doubt about it. So now going back to the example, I knew that there cannot be any experiences. I not knew in very clearly, but I had shraddha in the fact that the whole world cannot exist without me because I am the vivarta phenomena. This one was clear, but then there was a doubt. What was the doubt? The doubt was, wait a minute. Are you, Vedanta, are you telling me that there cannot be any existence of the whole world without me? Yes, that's true. Wait a minute. I'm going to be gone, and the world is still there. I was only born a few years ago. There was a world before that. And long after I'm gone, the world will remain. And this is a fact that contradicts the teaching of the Vedanta that nothing can be without you. And I said, I don't understand. How can that be? On one hand, I had Shraddha, because Shastra will not tell me something which is not true. Never. So I had complete Shraddha. But in my own mind, I had a doubt that how can this be? Over time, finally, I removed my doubt. And sometimes what happens is that you read something specifically, you talk to somebody who's talking to you, and you see that right away. Or the memory of those ideas strikes you when you are on your own. So this is really the advice given to the students of Vedanta, is that don't isolate it and say, I attended a class here. Okay, that's done with. I was attentive. I was not looking at my cell phone when Vijayji was talking, and okay, fine, I'm listening. But then afterwards, now I've got a different life altogether, and I don't know anything about Vedanta at that time. I've got to work, I've got to do this, and so on. Slowly, what needs to happen is that the words and concepts and ideas of Vedanta should be with me all day long, whether we are formally giving you a class or not. This finally started to happen with me. And one day, my doubts went away. And I must say that it was greatly aided by the teachings of Swami Akhandananda in the Mandukya Karika book about 2-3 years ago. I'm losing sense of time as to when did I first started reading it. But he started to talk about the Ekajivavada, that each jiva is nothing but the avatara of Ishvara. These are not multiple things, it's just a single jiva which is Ishvara. And even you and I also looking at it, there is in fact, we are not apart from Ishvara, it is all part of that. All of that we will study this, and I don't want to go into the details of that now. But anyway, all of that study really sort of created the answer to my doubt. And you know what the answer to the doubt was? This is when I'll close the loop. I was making a mistake of saying, yes, the world does depend on me as a vivarta phenomena, yes. But the doubt was, what happens to me, to the world, when I am gone? That was the doubt. I figured out it is because my parichinnatvam was putting a short circuit on that thought. So let me explain. This is what I was telling you about. I was thinking about it, that I'll just talk about this as a particular subject. That I had not given up parichinnatva, that I am a jiva. And as a result, it was short-circuiting the truth about myself, because I viewed everything from the standpoint of a jiva, that if I am gone, how will the world stay? I said, oh my God, I have to give up my parichinnatvam also. And if I did, which I did, the whole thing became very clear. Not very clear, but clearer. It's still, consolidating. This is what is called Brahmanishta. So, the very famous statement about Pariksha lokan karmachitan ayat brahmanaha nasti akritaha kritena tat vijnanartham gurumeva abhigachet Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. So there are two things involved, Shrotriyatvam and Brahmanishtatvam. And I think my Shrotriyatram is pretty complete. My Brahmanishtatvam is slowly getting there. Slowly getting there. So my Nishtha also needs to be there. I also forget during the day that I'm not a jiva. But you know what? I'm firmly on the path. And that path is to remove the doubts, samshaya. Because we make the mistake. On one hand, we say, yes, Shastra is right. Nothing can exist without me. And on the other hand, I hang on to the doubts. What will happen to me after I'm gone? Do you know what the fact is? History is nothing but your own imagination. Okay, just write it down. I'm not expecting that you will say, yes, true, 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 true. If you are, then you don't need to attend my classes. Go. You're done. But this is a fact. There is no history. There's no Rama, there is no Krishna, there is no nothing. It all comes about by the construct of my own prarabdha and my own sense of limitation. I construct a whole world from all of the vasanas over a number of years. And so because of that, you take birth in a situation where there is history. You create that. You create the religiosity. Because that is what you deserve. There is no reality to what you see. And so, for example, I'm just digressing a little bit, but so what will happen is that suppose you and I were to give up this body. Okay? So we will create an alternate creation with its own history, its own devatas, its own world. We'll create a father and mother that will give birth to me. This is all Ekajivavada. This is a fact. The Mahatmas tell us, don't take my word for it. My contribution is that I'm very sincere in probing, in exploring. And whatever I feel I have some clarity, some knowledge of it, I'll share it with you. I didn't know all this much before, because I also thought like everybody else, until Swami Akhandananda's teachings started to dawn on me. And the whole thing is nothing but Eka Jivavada. So now it has become very clear to me that really the Vivarta phenomena is complete. There cannot be a world without me, but I can be without the world. This is the Advaita. So therefore, just the fact that I'm a Sakshi is not sufficient. It's necessary but not sufficient. What is sufficient is that there is nothing without me. So there's a lot more to be talked about this, about how the world comes about, how it is in fact just a reflection of me. But all I wanted to do so far in this class so far is that we need to think about whether I am parichinna or not. And I am not. I have to attack parichinnatvam, a sense of limitation. We have to attack that. And we don't attack that. We just keep on looking at the variations of my problems and trying to remove it. But the message of Vedanta is, my dear, you are not limited. And that whole example of the vessel that we went through last week was that any sense of parichinnatvam is just a appearance. It is an abhasa. Aparichinnatvam, a sense of completeness, ananta, is the reality. That is what the second line is going to talk about. And we will, there's more to be talked about in that, so we will do that. But the essence of that is that any kind of sense of limitation needs to be explored. This is the issue. We're only concerned about what kind of limitations do we have. Swami Dayananji had once given this very example, which I'll present that here. It is kind of like, I think I've talked about that in some of the previous classes. I know I have. That, your, let's say, husband and wife, they are both they had some free time. And they were looking at, they just happened to pass by a new car dealership, new car. And they were waiting to go to a restaurant next door. They were on a waiting list. They were not ready. People were not ready to seat them, so they were just walking around. So they ambled into this new car, and they started saying, "Oh, little new models, BMW, Mercedes, and oh, very nice, so on and so forth." So this sales rep walks up to them, of course, and says, "Good morning, how are you? Can we help you?" She says, no, we were just looking. We're not sure. We just, we were in the restaurant next door. She says, okay, that's fine. But we just had some new cars that have just been delivered. And the beauty of it is they're all electric. They're better than Tesla, etc., etc. So you say, oh really? Interesting. And what does it cost? It's a little more costly, but it's about $50,000. Okay. Then you say, I actually have very good, lots of colors. Lots of colors. So there's a new color that have just come up, and there's an SUV version, there is a sedan version, so you're now getting into the details. And then he says, this is my favorite color. But I'm afraid somebody has already put a deposit on this one. But I think I can get another one. So you say, oh really? Oh, very interesting. So on and so forth. You are now so lost in models, colors, price, brand name, and so on, that you forget, do you really need to get another car? So finally, one of the two, either the wife or the husband, talks to the other one and says, honey, we really don't need a car. We only have 25,000 miles. It's running okay. Let's just forget it. It's okay. Swami Dayananda used to say that. So the sales rep was very concerned about, and these are very experienced sales reps. They never ask you, do you want to buy a car? They ask you, what color of the car do you want? Which model do you want? You want sedan or do you want SUV? Do you want a gasoline powered car or electric one? And you forget about the fact whether I need the car to begin with or not. Our situation is very similar. What kind of limitation do I have? How do I don't like this limitation? I want to remove that limitation. I want to do this one and so on. Vedanta says, please, 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 please. Why are you exploring what kind of limitation you want to remove? Because, the reason is that if I remove that limitation, then I will feel much better. For how long? Oh, I don't know about that, but I don't know what I don't know what else to do. I'm just removing all my problems and slowly and trying to do the best I can. My dear, have you inquired into the fact whether you are limited or not at all to begin with? First of all, I don't even pay attention. Then I say, really? Is that possible? Then comes a stage and he says, how? Show me how. So this is what is called Shrotriyatvam. Tell me how can I not be limited at all? So the understanding of the principles of Sarvatmatvam, what is unlimited alone can be real, what is limited can only be an abhasa, it can only be an appearance. An appearance doesn't have to be true, you are the truth. Really, how? I am the truth. Who am I? So the exploration of who you are, all of that now starts with the second part of the mantra, Adrishtam Avyavaharyam. So here, one way of looking at this, which I think will be very useful, I really feel at this juncture, is a snippet of verses from Drikdishya Viveka, which actually I've just started a series of podcasts, so I think I just recorded the first one where I introduced myself, and from now on I will give lots of podcasts, all based on Drikdishya Viveka. And you will see a very interesting, very advanced exposition of that. So that will come over time in the next few months. It's going to take a while. But there is a snippet of verses which show particular light into this way of explaining Sarvatmatvam, which I think will be very useful. And if we see that, then I will directly go to the second part of the mantra, and it will become more clear to you. That's my thinking. So I'm going to do that. So let me now, I think I did that one before. It's 9:26. I think I'll just summarize what I'm going to do. So in the next few classes, I will take up these snippets of verses from Drikdishya Viveka and visit them to a certain degree and see the relevance of those in the seventh mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad. Okay? So, this starts with, I think I've already done this, verse number 20 in Drikdishya Viveka, which goes, Asti bhati priyam rupam nama chetyam shapanchakam adyatrayam brahma rupam jagat rupam tato dvayam. So I'll just briefly translate that in terms of what we've been doing. So it says, it's saying exactly the same thing that we tried to do a little bit before, which is Brahma Rupam is Satchidananda Asti Bhati Priyam, which is Satyam Jnanam Anantam, which is the reality, like the space is the reality. And any kind of nama and rupa, which is nothing but a superimposition on that, is what is called Jagat Rupam, which is a Bhranti, which is in the form of an appearance only, an appearance on the reality. This is the one. Okay? And we will go into this in more detail later on. Then the number one, it talks about Khavayu Agnir Jalor Vishu Devatiryang Naradishu Abhinnaha Satchidanandaha Bhidyete Nama Rupini. So it says that Kha, which means space, Vayu, etc. These are all Nama Rupini, and they are superimposed on the Abhinnaha Satchidanandaha. So here it's interesting. Asti Bhati Priyam has been equated to Satchidanandaha. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Same thing. Aha. Then comes, and this is what I want to focus on, a set of verses on how to meditate on these facts. How do you invoke the truth that is being pointed out in a way that your mind can appreciate it and get absorbed in it? This is what this is what meditation is. This is what Nididhyasanam is. So this is a very good exposition of the method of meditation. And we will briefly visit it and connect it to the 7th verse of the Mandukya. Okay, it starts. He says, Upeksha nama rupe dve Satchidananda tatparaha samadhim sarvada kuryat hridaye va athava bahihi. He says the way to do meditation is you look at the whole scene, and in that scene you remove from your mind your focus on the nama and rupa, the name and the form, and begin to put your emphasis on the basis on which the nama and rupa exist. So that's the meaning of this. Upeksha nama rupe dve. Dve means two. What are the two? Nama and rupa. Name and the form. Upeksha, disregard. That's a good translation of the word upeksha. It's not as though you just close your eyes and say, no, no, no. But your focus should not be on that. You know, in the parlance of the movie that we were talking about, like movie going. Then you are watching a movie, and supposing there is something that is disturbing to you, what do? You say, oh, this troubling scene is just something that I am seeing. I am different from that. Don't you? Something similar to that is this. Upeksha nama rupe dve Satchidananda tatparaha. Tatparaha means your main focus should be on the seer, the Satchidananda. Samadhim sarvada kuryat. This is what you have to do. So to gain Brahmanishtatvam, what you need to do is to always be in this way of looking at things. Now he defines two ways of doing it. Hridaye va athava bahihi. Either inside your heart or outside. So then it goes into some more detail. Let's go on for a little while. I still have some more time. Next one, savikalpo nirvikalpaha. So it defines the difference between savikalpa samadhi and nirvikalpa samadhi. Dvivido hridihi drishya shabda anuvedena savikalpaha punartvidha. That is what we need to focus on. The second line of verse number 23. This is more relevant to the 7th verse. So please pay attention to, not pay attention, but please make a note of this, and I will explain this in more detail. It says, Drishya Shabda Anuvedena is sometimes called Anuvidhena also. So there are some differences. He says, Savikalpaha Punardvidha. So he says, Savikalpa Samadhi. Savikalpa Samadhi means a Vilkalpa Saha Vartate. Vikalpa means changes. So Nirvikalpa means without any thoughts, without any changes. And Savikalpa means with changes. So here he is defining the samadhi with changes. Savikalpaha pulardvidha. What are those? Drishya and Shabda Anuvedena. This is the key one. I want to really focus on this as we go further. So those two are, there is a Drishya Savikalpa and Shabda Asavikalpa. So if I can now even at least let you know about this. This is where we're going. The first line of the 7th verse, the thoughts. So all of the ones that he talked about in the first part, the Antah-pragyam, the Bahish-pragyam, the Ubhayatah-pragyam, this is called Drishya Anuviddha Samadhi, as we will see. Drishya Anuviddha Samadhi means a meditation based on what you are viewing, what you are seeing. So he says there are two kinds of samadhis. One is a samadhi. Samadhi means a meditation. Nididhyasanam. One way of doing Nididhyasanam is based on what you are seeing. Like in a movie, you're saying, I am seeing the following scene. I am seeing the following disturbing scene. So that's a thought saying you have yourself as a seer and a disturbing scene that you are seeing. The combination of this is what is called Savikalpa Samadhi. And so what you are seeing is what is called Drishya Anuviddha Samadhi. So exactly the Antah-pragyam, the Bahish-pragyam, etc. is called Drishya Anuviddha Samadhi. Now comes the main thing. You are someone who is not a Drishya. You are not something with Namarupa. You are the Driksvarupa. How are you going to do a samadhi on that? And you need to do a samadhi on that because you have ignored it. You're oblivious of the self. You disregard it. You're not even thinking of that. Then how do you want to think about it? You can't think about it as a drishya. You know how to think about it? Shabda Anuvriddha Savikalpa Samadhi. Shabda means by words. You need to describe it not as a drishya but as a shabda. This is where you say adrishtam avyavaharyam. Here also, for example, it says asangaha, satchidanandaha, swaprabhaha, dvaitavarjitaha, asmiti shabda viddoyam samadhi savikalpaka. This is number 25. So, the first line of the 7th verse is Drishya Anuviddha Samadhi, and the second line of the 7th verse is Shabda Anuviddha Samadhi. So this is what we will explore in more detail and then connect it to the 7th verse in the next few classes. Okay? Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Good to see you all, and hope to see you again next week. Hari Om.